ordered the military to go after the cartels even if they're not in the United States. Yes, you heard it correctly. So if they're in Mexico, he's authorizing them to go in there and to handle business. And not just cartels in Mexico, Salvador, Venezuela, wherever they're at, they're going to have the green light to go and handle business. As you already know, Trump has stated that he's going to do everything in his power to stop these substances coming from Latin America into the United States. And how did this happen? How did we get to this point? Donald Trump secretly was signing documents without letting people know. He has a specific list of what organized crime he's going after first. Tren de Aragua, Sinaloa, Noreste, El de Jalisco, and Cartel of the Suns. This is going into effect today. Already in the White House area, they're already figuring out plans on how they're going to go after these organized crimes. And if this is going to be happening, they're going to have to be very aware not to be attacking civilians because things can get out of hand real quick. As we speak, Trump already sent extra soldiers to the border and more drones. He also asked President Sheinbaum from Mexico if they are allowed to go in. Obviously, the president of Mexico said, nope, you cannot come in. But as of today, the military is this much closer to entering Mexico without any permission. Let me know what you guys think about all this down below in the comments. And like always, don't forget to follow.
So evidently, Trump has signed into effect that he can basically invade other Hispanic countries if he deems it necessary based on them bringing fentanyl and drugs into the United States. And then but just a few hours later, they come out and say there's a $50 million bounty on the president of Venezuela. See, a little something about Venezuela most people don't know is Venezuela has the largest oil reserves in the world, bigger than Kuwait, bigger than Saudi Arabia, bigger than the Middle East. Most of it's in Venezuela. So he puts into effect that he can invade these countries with, little to no congressional approval. And then he can put bounties on their presidents' heads now. I guess he learned a little something from Bush. You make it look like there's really bad people over here in a region that has a resource you desperately need, which is oil. Gas prices have skyrocketed lately, and I guess Trump kind of realized it. And half of his campaign was, I'm going to bring gas prices down, grocery prices down. You remember. Not go to war anymore. He's about to go to war with Mexico and Venezuela, probably Colombia. It's about to be his own little private war going on right now, and we're not going to get much news about it unless we go down there and look ourselves. So hopefully there's journalists willing to do that. Y'all have a good day.
Shalom. Slaki. Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Harakakwadash, and double honors to the apostles and the elders of GMS, Great Millstone and Ruel, and peace and salutations to the elect of the true nation of Israel, Yasharallah. Quick lesson, man. You seen the TikToks, man. Trump, declaring war on these cartels. He wants to send U.S. troops against these cartels. All right. So, he said that are not in America. So, which means he's getting the U.S. troops ready to invade Mexico, Venezuela, and these other Latin countries. All right, to dismantle these cartels. Okay, all right, and that's what it looks and that's what it sounds for face value. All right, at the surface level. All right, but the intentions, all right, are deeper than that, man. All right. Okay. I can see this going. I can see this becoming like a big thing, man. Between Mexico, the Northern Kingdom and Esau in America. America's at war with the cartels. And this devil will have legal immunity to do whatever he wants with you. If you're a Mexican or if you're Northern Kingdom, all right. If you're a Latino, all right. Oh, you're suspicious of being a cartel member. just by the way you look. All right, they don't even have to say because the way you look. They could just say because they think you look Latino. All right, just because you are Latino, you got a Latino last name or first name, they could just deport you or put you in prison, in a concentration camp or whatever. I can see that happening here in the future, man. The next years. All right. Okay. And, it goes deeper than that, man. Okay. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, there was a Call of Duty video game. I think it was Call of Duty Ghost. All right. Where the United States was going at war with the South American and Central American countries, the Latin world. Okay. And that video game came out like in 2013, 2014, Yeah. All right. 2013. I could look it up on Google right now, man, but yeah, man. So 2013 till now, that was like 12 years ago, foreshadowing, man, of the plans that this devil Esau Edom has to establish his new world order. Because this devil Esau, the so-called white man, all right, the elites of this world that run the world. I'm not talking about my neighbor or the everyday white man that you go to work with. No, I'm talking about the elites. All right, these illuminaries. Okay, the so-called Illuminati. All right, that they call themselves. All right, which own the banks and run the world and whatnot. Okay, they have a belief system where it's called the Hungarian dialectic, if I said that right, where they have to tell you what they're doing, all right, before they do it. Okay, and some of the ways that they do it, they tell you what they're gonna do is by programming, by was it pre-programming? It's called foreshadowing. It's called it's like what's the word? Predictive programming. All right. Okay, they show you what they're gonna do. All right, years, sometimes months, sometimes a decade before it even happens, before they actually do it. Okay. All right. And they do it by way of order out of chaos. So they systematically cause chaos, all right, the way they want it to. They plan the chaos and whatnot between whatever and whatever. And then they have their plan of bringing order out of that chaos that they caused themselves, all right? So that's their Hungarian dialectic, man. That's their belief system. They tell you what they're going to do beforehand in these movies and shows and TV shows like The Simpsons. See, The Simpsons, they didn't predict shit, man. All right, they don't predict nothing. All right, it's who owns The Simpsons, man. Who owns The Simpsons and these TV shows and these movies? All right, who owns them? Who owns the entertainment industry? Okay, these TV shows. All right, it's the JEWs. It's the elites. All right, Esau, the heads of Esau. All right. All right. They own these companies, man, and they push out and show you. All right, put on TV and these shows what they want you to see. Okay, and what do they show? All right, predictive programming. All right, they're programming your mind and desensitizing your mind to the things that they're gonna do. All right, months, years, decades before they'd even do it. Okay, there's predictive. I'm not gonna get into that topic. I was about to say there's predictive programming. There was predictive programming in the '90s, late '90s, of the towers. All right, I'm just gonna call them that. All right. That happened in 2001. Okay, we all know. I don't want to say it, and then my channel gets stroked down. But yeah, man, I'm tired of seeing this Edomite. This guy, he might not even be an Edomite, but I'm tired of seeing this guy.
For more viral news, chao pescado.
Yeah, man. Trump planning on sending troops to Mexico, man. All right. What was it?
Go. Trump has.
So evidently, Trump has signed into effect that he can basically invade other.
Slovakia. Trump, Mexico.
Cartel didn't get the memo. So basically the cartel is saying that the U.S. military ain't as bad as they think, and they better think twice before they mess with them. And they want every bit of the smoke that the United States military think they could bring. So the Department of Homeland Security reported that the cartel said they are ready for anything that the United States military is willing to bring. They're not scared. And I don't know where they're getting this confidence from, but apparently they don't know the United States military has been waiting for this day forever. The United States military has surveillance. They've been watching, and they've just been waiting for this time to come. You have to understand, all of the special forces, all of the different teams, all of the high-tech machinery. This might not be a good fight to fight for the cartel, if you understand what I'm saying. United States military, of course, is one of the most feared and respected militaries in the world. They're not gonna go away that easy. I'm out.
But yeah, man. These cartel members, man. They're trembling in their boots, man. All right. They're him saying that these cartels are saying they're not scared and whatnot. They're just saying that because they're ordered to say that. All right. Because these cartels, they're not organic, man. All right. They're not organically made. All right. They're set up. They're funded by the same white man that I was just talking about. All right. The Edomites, the elites, the Illuminati. Okay. All right. They're funded by Esau, the elites of this world, man, that own the banks, that own the entertainment industry, that own everything, man, the drugs. And they propped up and funded these cartels so they could distribute and put drugs in the United States, all right, for cheap, okay, for cheaper. And then these cartels will have the finger pointed at them when it's really the plans of the white man, Esau, all right, that set up these cartels to do that, to do his dirty work, to get these drugs in the States and across the border. And who gets blamed? All right, the cartels, all right. But these cartels are all secretive, okay. They're on the Mexico border, okay. The Mexico border, Slovakia. Give me a second. They're across the border. They're in Mexico, so the United States Army can't do nothing about it, man. All right. Okay, so they're constantly pumping these drugs across the border into the United States, into people's, mouths, into their veins. Okay, if you know what I mean. Okay, into people's hands. All right, and people get strung out on drugs, and this devil Esau. All right. He points the finger at the citizen, and he points the finger at the cartels. When it's really him, all right, who set this system up. Okay, who propped up the cartels and funds these cartels to do what they do. Like I said, they're not organic. They didn't just come up out of nowhere, man. All right. This devil supplies these cartels with weapons, all right, or organizing themselves. And how do these cartels operate? By very devilish, like, man. All right, by the ways of Satan. Okay. All right, Edom operates like that, man. Like gang culture. Okay, that comes from the white man, Esau. All right. Ever since he was, Cain and Esau, all right, and the Edomites, all right, in the ancient times, all right, they've been operating in and like gangs. All right, 'cause that's their culture, gang culture, man. That comes from the Edomite, the so-called white man. All right. Ever since World War I, World War II, ever since the 1600s, since the Lord let loose this devil, the Lord took the chains off this devil, from him, and let him loose and free from the Caucasus Mountains, okay, and overtook the world. All right, he's been acting, he's been running things, all right, like very gang-like, for lack of better terms, man. Look at World War I and World War II. Okay, what does devil do? He took down the SARS, all right, the TSAR, all right, royal family. How do you do that? All right, very gang-like, okay, assassinations, all right, and whatnot, poisoning them, assassinating them, setting up their own government, civil war within Russia, okay, and then setting up their own heads and setting up their own politicians and officials, all right, and puppets and leaders to do their dirty work, and then shoot at each other, all right, give each other guns, supply each other guns, all right, supply a system, all right, factories to make guns and weapons of war, all right, okay, and assassinating each other, doing dirty work upon each other, all right, and setting up a new world order, okay, that's the product, all right, of cartels and of this world, man, all right, of Esau ruling the world, all right, the so-called white man ruling the world, man, okay, and these cartel members, like I said, they're trembling in their boots, man. All right, they're trembling. All right, they know that the U.S. Army ain't nothing to be fucked with. All right, but they're saying that they're not afraid of the U.S. Army because, hey, they're just saying what they're told to be said. All right, because the president of Mexico, okay, she's not an Issacharite. She's not an Israelite, man. She's not Mexican. All right, she might be half or a fourth Mexican, but her father's seed line goes back to Jewish people. Okay, small hat people over there in the land of Israel. All right, she's Jewish. I'll just say the word, man. Okay, she's not Mexican. Okay, I think her name itself isn't even a Mexican name. It's a Yiddish name. Correct me if I'm wrong. All right, so yeah, and she's the one. She's in cahoots with the cartels in Mexico. Okay, she's allied with the cartels. All right, because when she came up to be presidency, all right, the candidacy and the run to be president in Mexico, with her, all right, there was a whole bunch of assassinations. All right. I could look it up on Google. All right. The latest Mexican presidential candidate assassinations. All right. There was a whole bunch, man. I can't give you the number right now. I don't want to lie, and tell you a wrong number. But you could look it up on Google. I'm not. But there was so many assassinations because, hey, all right, she's a JEW, okay? She's not a real Mexican. She's not a real Issacharite. She's a Jewish person, man. All right? And they run the world. They rule the world. And hopefully, Lord willing, I don't get my video taken down for saying that. But it's true. Okay? Be proud about it. That you wrote that you run the world. That you rule the world. Okay? Like the Lord gave you that power to do so. All right? Use it to your advantage, and you will. All right? All the way until the Lord returns. All right? And takes you down, man. All right? So yeah, man, Mexico, the United States Army might as well go, they might go to war, man, okay? Zephaniah 3:8, therefore wait ye upon me, saith the Lord, until the day that I rise up to the prey, for my determination is to gather the nations. Is this what I wanted? this isn't what I wanted. But hey, yeah, I'm gonna read it though. It says, "Until the day that I rise up to the prey, for my determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms, to pour upon them mine indignation, even on my fierce anger. For all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy." Okay, and the Lord's putting the Spirit upon all these nations, man. Even Mexico and these South American countries, man, to go at war with America. All right, okay. The United States is finally invading, all right, these Latin countries, all right, to do something with the problem, with the cartel problem, which they set up them fucking selves, man. All right, it's their problem. All right, and hey, the cartel, they had a use, okay. They did they did what they had to do. They did what they're commanded to do by the white man himself, Esau Edom himself, and their use is over with. They have no use no more. So what is this devil gonna do? All right, he's gonna look like the good guy, all right, and do away with what he created, cartels, okay, and he's gonna look like the good guy in the process, all right, and at the same time he could use that to persecute us Israelites, us Northern Kingdom, all right, here in the Americas, to get us out of here, all right, like the scriptures say, the devil shall come down upon you like a flood, having great wrath, because he knoweth he has a short time, and he's going to do that upon us Northern Kingdom first, all right, and eventually all of Israel and all of America, really, because it's coming, man, all right, the MOTB, and this is all of this is happening, okay, America between Mexico, cartels, and invading Mexico and whatnot, after Mexico just announced that they're that they want to make it mandatory to have a to have the ID, to have a digital ID, man. All right. To be a citizen in Mexico, all right. It's going to be made mandatory for you to have a digital ID, identification. Okay. Remember that? That just happened. And now America wants to invade these Latin countries to deal with the problem of the cartel. All right. And that's what the Lord's doing, man. All right. He's rising up to our prey, our enemies. Okay. Us men of the Lord and women of the Lord, our enemies. Okay. And he's gathering the nations to fight against each other, man. All right. And that's how the Lord's going to pour out his fierce anger. Okay. And his righteous indignation, his fierce anger. Okay. This is I just wanted to get this one real quick. Joel 3:10. Let's lock in. It says, "Beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong." And this is talking about these countries, all right, that are not America, that have been bullied and punked, or had been allied with America. Okay, these small countries with smaller military budgets, smaller militaries, smaller compared to America, and they're not scared of America no more, man. They don't give a shit no more. Even Mexico, all right, America's neighbor, he ain't tripping about America, man. They're bumping up against America, saying, "Hey, we ain't scared of you," And that's them. That's the scripture saying, "Let the weak say, I am strong." Because Mexico has been, under the wing of America, man, for decades, almost a century, Okay, ever since the Alamo War, Mexican-American Revolution War, or whatever, Mexico's been used by America, But hey, it's going back to that spirit again, the Mexican-American fighting, feud, friction spirit, Mexican-American war. And that might happen, man. Hey, the Lord actually might have the United States Army invade Mexico, and Mexico Army try to invade America and go at war with each other. And hey, who knows? The Lord might have, America might get punked, you know, by the Mexican armies, cartels. All right, that might happen, man. Don't be surprised, because America's military is full of Gen Zs, Gen X's, women, women, and then women trying to be like men, and then these simp ass dudes, these colorful people, but these other armies outside of America, it's just straight men, all right? Men full of testosterone, natural testosterone too. See, the U.S. Army, all right, the U.S. in general, not even just the Army, their on average, men's testosterone levels are low on average, super low, all right? And men have to take testosterone therapy to add testosterone within themselves for the lack of it, because of the food and the lifestyle, okay, that America has been living for all these decades, almost a century, man. And even in the 70s, men have half of the testosterone that they used to, okay, from back in the 70s, man, okay. And you see men, like there's this guy I work with. He was talking about taking testosterone, like it's nothing. I just do it in cycles, man. I'm like, man, I don't believe in needles, but I ain't never gonna take testosterone, man. I'm gonna do it naturally, man. I'm gonna naturally raise my testosterone, man, by eating right and living a healthy lifestyle, man, a manly lifestyle. I don't ever believe in. He was like, man, just do, man, you should do it, bro. It's easy, man. You just go get a doctor's approval, and it's easy. I'm like, man, first off, I don't believe in needles. You scared of needles? I'm like, nah, I just don't believe in them. I told him what I believe in. I believe in God. He's like, oh, man, I believe in God too. I feel you, bro. Now I'm kind of ashamed of my tattoos and whatnot. Blase, because, he's a Christian, but, he's weird. Anyway, but yeah, man, moving on. But yeah, the U.S. military might get their ass whooped or punked by Mexico themselves, man. But America has numbers, but hey, America's army, like I said, it's not just men. It's a whole bunch of soy boys, all right, colorful people, women, But like I said, these other countries, it's just men full of testosterone, natural testosterone. Because these other countries don't have to deal with microplastics and forever chemicals and GMO foods and dopamine, cell phones, next to them all the time, man, watching TikToks and whatnot, and having their women talk back to them and whatnot, and putting them down. That does a number on a man's testosterone, man. And these countries don't have to deal with what men in America have to deal with, So people around the world, men around the world, they have natural testosterone flowing through their blood, their veins. So their armies, are going to be stronger, than the U.S. armies. America's just been at it, for a while. That's how America's army, is still strong, because America's army has been, first off, has one of the biggest budgets, high tech, all right, even though Russia is right there, if not higher. But hey, man, moving on. That was just me speaking as a man. Mexico they actually might punk America, man. Who knows? It's all up to the Lord. Revelation 17 and 16. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. All right. Yeah, the 10 horns isn't talking about Mexico specifically, but it could apply to Mexico, because Mexico used to be it still is technically an ally to America, man. There's a lot of ties between America and Mexico, you know, the agriculture, the avocados, the people, you know, just a lot of stuff, a lot of things go across that border, you know, like, produce, food, you know, mainly tortillas, beer, tequila, whatnot, limes, all right, people, drugs, go across that border, you know. But my woman, um, she hasn't gone to Mexico since we got together, but she used to go to Mexico, and her grandma and her family used to bring back cheese. It would be I got some in the fridge right now. It's the best cheese ever, man. Natural cheese, straight, from the cow, man. All right, and it's made naturally. It doesn't even have its own brand name. It's just natural cheese, from the cow, straight from the cow, grass fed, free range cow, man. Not fed grains and soy and corn. No, it's just the cow eats grass, man. On a range, and that milk is pure and good and healthy, and turned into a cheese. And hey, man, that cheese is my favorite, man. It feels good. Like, my body it actually feels good after eating that cheese. It doesn't just taste good. It makes I feel like I'm getting actual minerals and nutrients from that cheese, man. Because usually I don't eat cheese. I try not to eat cheese because it's unhealthy here in America. Extremely pasteurized, and it comes from a cow that has been eating soy, genetically modified foods and whatnot. What cows shouldn't be eating, and it's pumped with steroids and whatnot. So this cheese is crap, and it's added with preservatives and plastics and whatnot. So yeah, man. But yeah, so America and Mexico has a lot of ties between each other, man. So Mexico could be, like I said, this scripture could be applied to Mexico, because the 10 horns are talking about the allies of America, like Germany, I believe Italy, what else? England, the 10 horns on the dragon that the whore rode, was riding upon in the book of Revelation. And it says these 10 horns, all right, the allies of America, all right, which is the whore. America's the whore. Virgin daughter of Babylon, all right, the whore. Okay. These 10 horns are going to array themselves against Babylon, America, and shall hate her, all right, and not be her ally no more, all right, and shoot fire at her, make her desolate, and go to war with her. All right, that's what that means. Make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. When it says make her desolate, when it says make her desolate and naked, it's talking about these countries talking back and about and exposing the truth about America and the wickedness thereof within it. Okay, and when it's talking about shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire, are they going to go to war with America and shoot missiles at America? All right, in World War III, Jeremiah 50:14, it says, put yourselves, Jeremiah 50 and 12. Jeremiah 50 and 13. It says, because of the wrath of the Lord, it shall not be inhabited. All right. Everyone that goeth by Babylon shall be astonished and hiss at her plagues. Put yourselves in array against Babylon round about, all ye that bend the bow. Shoot at her, spare no arrows, for she hath sinned against the Lord. All right, Yahweh Shem Shai. Okay, so all these countries are going to go to war with America, some might be allied with America, during World War III, but it says, shoot, all you that bend the bow, shoot at her, spare no arrows. That's talking about these nuclear missiles, man. All right. That's spiritually talking about the nuclear missiles. Okay. So these countries are arraying themselves, all right, against Babylon, America. And when it's talking about Babylon in this chapter, it's talking about America. Okay. I might do a lesson on this whole chapter here soon, Lord willing, because we're in the time. It's like it, but we're in those times, man. We're in these times. Okay. World War III. All right, this is the World War III chapter, man. All right, the destruction of America. Hope this was edifying to the elect. Shalom.